All right, so today we're going to take a deep dive into Printify.
Okay.
We've got a whole bunch of stuff, actually articles, personal anecdotes,
Hmm.
really kind of your crash course on this whole platform.
Right.
Basically, it lets you design and sell all this custom merch online. And the cool part is there's no upfront costs.
Oh, wow.
And there's like over 1,000 products that you can just kind of mess around with.
Interesting. So, like, what kind of products are we talking about?
Oh, you name it. T-shirts, phone cases, mugs, all that good stuff that people love to buy.
Yeah.
But I think what's really fascinating is the whole idea that Printify is really opening up e-commerce.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's almost like anyone who has even just like an inkling of an idea can kind of jump in and become an entrepreneur.
That's a pretty powerful idea. But, like, how realistic is that?
I mean, that's what we're here to find out, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk money. I was looking at some of the materials, and one of the examples was like, you could make over $430 a month if you just sell one $20 item a day.
Yeah, that definitely gets your attention, doesn't it? But keep in mind, that's just one product.
Right.
And it's kind of a simplified scenario.
Right.
To really get the whole picture,
Okay.
I think you have to consider like average sales volume. You got to think about profit margins.
Right.
Especially after you've paid for the production and shipping.
All the costs involved.
Exactly. And then even how much are you spending on marketing? It's not as easy as just, oh, I'll just sell one a day.
Right. Right. It's more about building like a sustainable business, right?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of building a business, one story really stood out to me, and it was about Christina, who used Printify to quit her job and become like a full-fledged digital nomad,
Wow.
working from Bali.
That's the dream.
I know. That's the dream for so many people out there, right?
It is, but I think it's important to go a little deeper than just the quit your job, work from the beach narrative.
Okay, yeah.
Like, how did she actually get there? Was there a specific niche that she found? Was it a particular platform that she was really good at marketing on? I think those are the questions you got to ask yourself.
Yeah.
Especially when you think about the fact that Printify's got millions of users, right? So what is it that actually makes those successful stories like Christina's stand out from the crowd? And on the flip side, what were some of the challenges that she probably faced that you don't always hear about in those like glowing testimonials?
Right, right. It's so easy to just get like swept up in the hype, but I think you always got to have that little bit of realism.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about global reach. Printify claims over 59 million orders delivered to 209 countries.
Wow.
And get this, from 141 facilities all over the world.
Those are some pretty impressive numbers.
That's a lot of packages.
Yeah, that's a lot of packages. But you know what that means for someone who's thinking about using Printify? It means there's a really established network already in place. And for you as a seller, it means you could potentially reach customers basically anywhere.
That's huge.
Plus, think about it. If there are facilities that are closer to your customers, that also could mean faster shipping times.
Right, which means happier customers.
Exactly. And potentially lower costs, too. And that's something that you'd really have to wrestle with if you were doing everything yourself.
Right. Now, I did notice that Printify also has this whole ecosystem built up around it.
Oh, yeah.
So they've got the POD rock stars, a whole YouTube channel. They even do events, a podcast called Printing Profits.
Really?
And then they have a mentorship program. So it seems like they're really putting a lot of effort into supporting their users.
Okay, but that brings up an important question. Is all this support, is this actually valuable? Or is it just really good marketing?
That's a good point.
Yeah. You'd want to look into like what kind of content are they actually putting out there? Are these like real practical tips that you can use to actually build a business, or is it all just kind of surface level? And what about the mentorship program? Is that something that's easily accessible? These are the kinds of things I think you'd want to dig into before you just jump in.
Okay. So we've talked about a lot of the positives.
Yeah.
But what about the downsides?
Yeah.
Are there any things that people should be aware of?
I think that's where critical thinking comes in. One of the big things to think about is competition.
Yeah.
The barrier to entry, it's pretty low, which means there are a lot of other sellers out there.
So many people are using Printify.
Exactly. So you've really got to figure out how are you going to stand out? And then on top of that, how are you going to market your products? How are you going to reach your target audience? How are you going to convince people to buy from you and not the other guy?
Right. And then there's the whole like operational side of things.
Yeah.
Even if Printify is taking care of the production and the shipping, you're still the one running the business.
Exactly. You got to think about customer service, dealing with returns.
Yeah.
It's easy to overlook that stuff, right?
It is.
And I think it's important to remember that Printify is really just a tool. It can be a really powerful tool, but it's not magic.
Hmm.
Ultimately, your success is going to depend on how you use it.
This has been really insightful. I'm glad we did this deep dive. Any final thoughts?
I think Printify definitely makes it easier to get started with e-commerce.
Mm-hmm.
But just like with anything else, any kind of business, success takes work. It takes planning, understanding the market, and not just getting caught up in all the hype.
Totally agree. Well, hey, listeners, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Printify. As you keep researching, here's something to think about. Printify makes it easy to start, but what is it that will make your Printify business truly successful? Keep learning, keep questioning, and keep digging.